All right, we are live again. It is Friday, and that means it is time to work on our Deck of Many Things app. Yeah, it's been a pretty okay week for me. It was a holiday week here in British Columbia, so it was a 4-day week, and I took an additional day off to go see some family. So I didn't start work until Wednesday. And of course, after 3 days of work, I am totally pooped, but not as tired as I have been in previous weeks. So hopefully, we will have a productive day of trying to build some more app, build some more Deck of Many Things. Yeah, let's just have a look at the chat and make sure that no one is reporting terrible issues with drop frames or things lag. I assume that there's probably lag. There's always lag, but that's okay because I'll switch to the screen, and then you will be able to not realize that there is lag. Haha! Aside from the clicking of the mouse, I guess, which is quite loud. Granted. I'm going to find some music. I will switch over to the screen here so we can look at info.plist. That's fun. I had to update the version number, or the build number rather, to update to push a second version up to iTunes Connect, but I have successfully managed to distribute version 2 to Ash now to check out, so that she can see how her art is being used as the app continues to be built. I'm gonna find some music. Again, just going to the video game soundtrack rabbit hole because, well, it is a gift that keeps on giving, and I can use it without getting ripped off of YouTube. So, yeah, that is why we do video game soundtracks, because they don't get us banned. All right, so we're looking at Turtles in Time right now, and we'll see where this takes us. Okay, so last time when we were working on stuff, we had made some changes to our setup view. Well, first of all, we started adding some rules edition stuff, which we were storing in user defaults, so that any user using the app would have their preference for the rule system that they were using saved until they deleted the app, assuming that they did that. Now, this is not perfect. It's not going to like sync across devices or anything, but it's a quick and dirty version. Most people are going to use this on their phone, and they're never going to use it on the device. He says, making gigantic, baseless assumptions. So for right now, it's probably okay to use user defaults. I should probably, right now when the app launches, we check to see if there is a user defaults value set for pardon me. We check and see if there's user default set for the edition, and if there's not, then we go in and we set it to 5th edition, which seems to be working because we tried not setting it, and the rules text for all the cards was in 5th edition, so that's good. So the first thing that I wanted to get done today was to allow you to actually go in and change which edition you're looking at, and then make sure that that is saved and persisted. We should probably also put a lot of this code in a class that just manages the user default, so that we're not like constantly just setting like the value for the keys. We can figure that out. Anyway, so where we left ourselves last time was that we had added a button, a settings button, to the view here, the setup view, and I had got a bunch of constraints problems, and everything broke. I realized not too long after I turned the stream off, because I was like trying to do it very, very quickly, that of course when I was setting the constraints on it, I had set them on the button, not the settings button, which of course worked because we do have a button, which is just called usefully button. Right here, that button, and so we were adding constraints to this button, not this button, and that kind of messed up our UI. So yeah, I fixed that in short order, and so now this button is where we want it to be, but it does not do anything. So I'm just going to create a simple interface that we can use to switch which edition that we're using. You'll remember that we made a rules enumerator here. So right now it just has 3rd edition and 5th edition, and that's it. So what we're going to use is we're going to create a table that we can choose the rules that we want to use from, and show that. So I guess the first thing we will do is create that view controller. I'm going to call this, we'll use this for general settings. Right now it's just going to allow us to change the rules, but we can go from there. Telugu? I don't know, RV, is that a meme I'm missing? I don't understand. I'm not in touch with anything anymore. It's probably something that every programmer knows it's just beyond me. I don't know. Let's create a new group first. Oh, let's actually commit our changes. So the first thing I want to commit is just bump build number. No, I'm not up on the Cortex Unicode problem. Tell me about it. Oh, that! No, yes. Sorry, yes, I did hear that. That there is a Unicode symbol. Yeah, that does bad things to Cortex. Yes, I did hear about that. This is like the 3rd time in like a year that Apple has had a similar problem to that, where like there's been a text message going around that can brick your iPhone. That's kind of ridiculous. In this case, it's sort of their own darn fault by not accommodating certain Unicode characters. And I have no idea how that kind of parsing actually works when you get down to like the nitty gritty of it. But, Apple, you need to do better. Let's say add settings button to set up view. Okay. I mean, it is an important message about properly handling Unicode in your operating system. Like, thankfully, most of that stuff is abstracted so much that we don't need to worry about it. We can just rely on the OS level stuff to deal with it for us. Except for when it doesn't work. Okay, new group. Which, like, shows up highlighted as if I can edit it, and then it immediately deselects itself. My mic is kind of oddly positioned, so I'm going to just move it. Sorry, this might cause weird noises. It's positioned such that whenever I switch from my mouse to my keyboard, my hand bumps the mic, which is not good for anyone. Now it's way up closer to my face. But I can still see the iPad, and that is the important thing. Okay, so we've added settings. We'll alphabetize that. And this is going to be a Cocoa class. And we'll call this settings view controller. Oh my gosh! It's got so much garbage in it! You get like some nice defaults, which can be useful for things. We're not going to use that. We're not going to use that. We are going to use that. We are going to use that. No, we're not going to use any of this. Blah, blah, blah. We're certainly not using that. Go away. Okay. So yeah, we need to return a decent number of rows. So right now, I think what I'm going to do is do something similar to what we were doing with our card enumerator before. And that's just return, I create an array that returns every version that we have presently of the rules. When I did this before, when I was like, why can't you count an enum, which is annoying, by the way, but this is a decent solution because this is at least fairly obvious when you've made a mistake. Basically, we just return an array of all the versions, and if we want to count it, then we can just count that array. It's one way of doing it anyway. So, go back to settings. We can just say, oh, we need that should be static. But it's not. But it's not an instance member. Okay, good. It's just our compiler being slow. No, it's not. Should be static. Because it's static, maybe it can't be. That's not giving me a compiler warning. Okay. It's probably fine. Alright, now, I guess... You know what, I've just realized that my battery is running low and I have not plugged in. Silly me. Give me 2 seconds. I'm gonna grab my cable. There we go. One issue with having a desk setup that is collapsed and reconstructed every single time you want to use it, sometimes you forget to plug your computer in. And this MacBook Air really does not last like it used to, though it would probably help if I wasn't, you know, doing a bunch of heavy stuff on it and streaming it. Okay, so now for our cells, let's just... So Table View Controller has a table view instead of its normal view. So basically a table view is what you would expect in a lot of different apps. I don't know, it's like the vertically scrolling stack of things. It's actually very similar to the collection view that we used to show the cards that scrolled horizontally. But in this case, table views are very specifically vertically scrolling stacks of cells. And I'll just use this. Just actually gonna say. Right now we're just going to use this. We're going to have to customize this cell, I think. So this is not going to work forever, but this will get us far enough to make sure that our table view is set up correctly and like showing something, and then we'll go from there. So for our cells, we're just going to dequeue a standard UI table view cell. These have a few different modes, but we'll just use the normal one, which you've probably seen on iOS like a million times. It has a label on the left that says the name of what you want to be in the cell. So we'll say let's so we'll grab the rules system that corresponds to the index path. So like we're basing the number of rows in our table view on the number of rule systems we have. So right now it's 2. So we'll use that as an example here. So we've got a total of 2 rows. The first one will have an index of 0, the second one will have an index of 1. So when we try and make a cell, we will look up. We'll grab the rules array or the all array from rules. The 0 index will be 3rd edition. The 1 index will be 5th edition. And we will populate each row based on the edition that corresponds with the index of the row. So we'll say cell dot text label, I think. Text label dot text equals rules dot raw value. Yeah, we need to deal with that has header thing too. Love that like sampled sound in Super Nintendo music. It's so good. This is like, I guess, building on the stuff they were doing with the NES and Ninja Turtles 3, which we were listening to last time. Okay, that's basically all we need to do for the cell setup here. Like, we're creating the cell based on the reuse identifier, which is used here. Delete that and use our variable. So we're going to ultimately create our own cell class, so we'll store the reuse identifier in there ultimately. I just want to make sure, as I say, that this is populating with the stuff that I want it to populate with. Do I want to have any sort of custom initializer for this right now? No. So let's just go to
Neon Knight Riders.
Our setup. Okay, so we created our button in the view, but we need to add a target to it to say what it needs to do. So we'll say dot. We should really rename that other button. Do we make that button private? Is that why I'm not seeing it there? Totally made it private. We'll make sure that it can only be set in the view, but we'll let other views get it so that they can see it. Autocomplete, please. And then this is sloppy. Show settings.
Starbase, where no turtle has gone before.
I used to be able to play through Turtles in Time like in one sitting, and I used to do so like relatively regularly. So I'll say let's so we'll create a settings view controller. We'll- Ultimately, this is going to be a grouped style table. Doesn't really matter right now. We're just trying to make sure that the table exists and is populated with something. We'll present it modally. Go away. Great. Can't present the class. We just want to present the instance that we created. All right, let's see if this works. And it's gonna if it does work, it's gonna look pretty horrible, but that's okay. Need to set ourselves to the SE. It's gonna look horrible, and we're never gonna be able to navigate away from it, but that is okay. Do 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 do. Does not do anything. Oh, we didn't. We set them both to start draw. Get hype with boss fight music. Interesting that it didn't start the draw either. I'm worried. Great. So we, as expected, we have two cells. Looks like selection is awful. We can fix that. Great. So, one... Okay, so we're going to need to figure out exactly what we want to do. I think what we're going to do is add, for each edition, a header and description. I'm going to rename this from has header to has rules text header. And then we'll give each of these a make an exhaustive switch here. That's not good. Lost the iPad again. iPad. Where are you? Don't do that to me, please. We did this little dance last week, and I did not, or 2 weeks ago, and I did not appreciate it very much. Again, we should be putting these strings in a table. Oh, the Duet app on my Mac quit. That's interesting. So that wasn't actually the cable being bad, it was Duet just quitting. We fixed it. It's back. Alright. So we got a description. Okay, so there's like a more verbose header. So instead of just showing the raw values for these rule systems now, we can say nope, not has header, just header. Hasn't updated. And then is it style for cells? Or mode? No. Again, we're probably going to have to make a custom cell here, but it is style. Oh, I think I've encountered this before, where to use the style, like, you can't set it. Unless you like do this the old way. That's like super silly. Okay, whatever. We'll make our own version. Right, but we're never waking from a nib, so go away. We will use set selected because it's interesting. At work, I typically don't, and I kind of feel like I should. Typically at work, we like figure out whether when something's selected, we just sort of reconfigure it, but it probably makes more sense to just use the set selected as that's what it's for. Anyway. Override its initializer and say So we want 2 labels. One of the things with like table cells is you need to watch out to avoid like things that are already used for cell layouts, because there are a bunch of different things that are already used for cell layouts. Okay, so what cell? Blah. Make this very basic. Nothing special, nothing fancy, no fonts or anything yet. And then we want description label. Is that what I called it? Just had like a moment where I was like, oh crap, description is like used, and so I'm putting description here, but that'll cause problems. But no, this is an enumerator, so it shouldn't be. It doesn't inherit from NS objects, so it should not have that. I don't think. Maybe it does. Just in case. So that can be. We don't actually have like a gray preset, do we? So white will be 0.5. It's probably too dark. Alpha 1. Okay. Okay, so how do we want to lay this out? I was just going to do basically a sort of description thing. So we'll say content view, add subview, header label, content view, add subview, description label. Let's just. Ooh, what video game are we listening to now? Mega Man X. We listened to that last time. Hold on, let's listen to some Castlevania music. This is the Super Nintendo version of the Castlevania Dracula X soundtrack. Okay, let's do this in a stack. That should be okay for. I think it's going to be fine. Stack view equals. stack dot axis equals dot vertical. Now it's like been a couple of weeks since I did anything with a stack. Stack dot alignment equals fill. What do you want? Is that better? Stack dot spacing equals 4. That, I think, is everything that we need for that stack. I just added the return. It's okay. You'll get there. There we go. Oh no! Ads! Okay. We're gonna get some super awesome guitar with wah wah in a second. I'll be very happy. Assuming that these tracks are all in order. Richter's theme sounds really good in the Super Nintendo version. I kind of like it actually better than the Turbo Duo version. Not the actual game in total, but Richter's theme in particular. Spent too long on Super Nintendo as a kid. I am considering getting one of those like 8-bit do Super Nintendo controllers just to play with on my computer. Not that I emulate things all the time. Emulation is bad, kids. Don't do it. Okay, so we've added our stack, and then activate constraints. Yeah, sick guitar. Okay, we want stack dot top anchor constraint equal to top anchor constraint equal to, we'll use the readable content guides for all those people on iPad. Bottom anchor. Bingo bango. Oh wait, that should be to the content view, not to the view itself. Danger, danger. Okay. This could mess up our constraints if we don't constrain it that way. I'm gonna set the font on this lower. Actually, let's give it. Let's give it some padding. So I'm gonna set the font label dot font equals. Come on, I know you can do it. System font of size 12. Actually, don't know what the default is. Okay, so this should give us a stack that is pinned 4 from the top, 4 from the bottom, and the readable content guides, whatever those are, on the left and right. And it has 2 labels that are spaced 4 apart, one of which is at 24 and black, the other of which is 50% gray and at size 12. That should be below it, except we have not added those to the stack. Subview, header label, stack, add range subview, description label. So in our settings view controller, these need to be alphabetized. Our settings view controller, we need to do a couple of things. Table view dot row height equals UI table view automatic dimension, and table view estimated row height equals whatever, 44, some number that is above 2, I think, is the threshold that we need to hit. So here we're saying table view, I'm not going to actually give you your row height. I'm going to make you figure it out based on your contents, based on the contents of the actual row, and that way the size of our rows is actually going to be determined by the size of the labels and the padding that I've set here. So hopefully that will cause things to be set up correctly. Now this needs a reuse identifier. Now, remember before I was trying to figure out if, like, because there's a thing that I was doing at work that used the reuse identifier, and I was like, isn't it like allowed automatically? I think what we were doing at work is we have a sort of utility extension that adds that. So like they do have a reuse identifier variable by default, but it doesn't actually do anything. But we can add an extension that overrides it, which might be good here. I don't actually know if that's a best practice. Like it feels like if it was... I also feel like our resources and our code should be separate, so maybe I should group these into a code folder. New group. This is going to be utilities. Just make this a Swift file. Plus extensions. Sure. This needs to import UI kit because we want to access this cell, and we'll say and we're just going to provide a default implementation. that work? See if that works. What I want is to not have to set reuse identifier variables on all of my cells. So this is just a string. This will just spit out the description of the class, which is probably enough to make it a unique reuse identifier for the context of this. Let's find out. Let's find out. Okay, so back into our settings view controller. Delete this. And we will say that we want the settings rule cell. That's really verbose. That's like Objective-C and whatnot is all about being verbose, but that's like a little too verbose. Oh, that's why, because I made a table view cell and it inserted the name, it inserted table view cell after my name, even though my name ended in cell. I wish it would not do that. I will change that. And so we will rename all those instances. Captures the file name too, which I like. Let's see if it caught it here. No, of course it did not. Settings rule cell. Okay, well this seems to be working, so we'll find out. All right, so first of all, we need this as this just like what happened with the collection views before. It'll return this as just a generic UI table view cell, and we need our custom subclass. So we're gonna guard that. And if we get back, so as rule cell. So if it will downcast to a settings rule cell, then great. If not, we won't be able to do anything with it. So we'll just return. Something's wrong. Oh, right. So it needs to actually return a cell. That's not going to work. So I want to do it all in one line, but I can't. Boo-hoo. Can I do it with an iflet? Yeah, because I wouldn't have to return. It's like not as... Like we are making an early exit here, but we don't have anything to return if we can't get this to work. I guess we'll just run the configure code and then we'll return the cell whether or not we configure it. So we're still getting the rules, and then we're no longer going to use the text label. We're going to use the... Did I make that private? Yeah, I totally did. I mean, I guess it's better to err on the side of too closed than too open, but um, shouldn't be private anymore. It hasn't like failed building yet. Maybe it's figuring it out. Now it's failed. Okay, only the setter should be private though. Right, so we can't do it this way. We'll just do it in two separate statements. So first of all, we dequeue the cell from the table view, and it gives us back just a UI table view cell. Then we check and see if it can downcast, and if it can't, we just return the cell without modifying it because we're not going to be able to modify it. If we do get the settings rule cell out of it, then we modify it and return it. That seems to be compiling. Is there anything else I'm forgetting? That was like a very long walk. You can see why I was like, okay, I'll customize the cell. I guess I'll customize the cell. It's like a lot to do. So, and then it'll probably all break. Yeah, it's totally broken. We've got fun times with encapsulated stuff. I'm going to guess that my stack is not translating auto-resizing masks into constraints. Booyah! We got there. I almost think that that's a really easy mistake to make, and I see it a lot. Also, you've got these like weird auto-resizing mask layout constraint warnings, and those are a surefire sign that you are creating some constraints that you shouldn't be. Oh, and I made it sloppy copying and pasting. Like the bane of my existence. I get quite a few code review comments back, more than I should, that say please use the default implementation here, because I have copied and pasted something into a different context and I have not updated the indentation. Whoop. Hey! Okay, that's way too big, but we're getting there. That's more or less what we want, though. Okay, so let's Now, fix that. We'll set this to like, that's like 12. That's like 16. Castlevania music is so good. That's looking a bit better. This spacing is like, it's like way more than we asked for. We asked for 4. Also asked for 4 from the top and from the bottom. No, it's right. It's just that there's like, for whatever reason, there's like a lot of leading built into these labels. That's annoying. Okay, so I guess the next thing that we want to do is add, like this is super ugly, but it works for now. Let's just leave it. Let's just leave it. Ba, 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 ba. Let's. I mean, it works for the moment, and that's what we care about. So let's put this in navigation controller so we can get out of it. And we will make it look pretty later. So instead of just going straight to the settings view controller, we will say let's and we will give it a root view controller of settings view controller. Do. And then instead of presenting that, we will present the navigation controller. Okay. And then in our settings view controller, we will add a right bar button item equals UI bar button item, bar button system item, done, target self, selector, so we'll add an action here. So we will dismiss. And this needs to be a selector because Objective-C. to implement this, which will just cause a crash, but that's okay. That's with every other view controller that we've made. So we'll just set that to the done button, the standard system done button. Now we can get out. So we still want to have one of these pre-selected. So I guess what we should do is when the view loads, say let's index equal let selected rules equal user defaults dot standard dot. So this is why we we should have a wrapper class for this. And we'll say all index of selected rules. Then table view dot select row at index path and we want row is index and section is 0, just index. Silly autocomplete. Section 0 at index path Let's do one more conversion here before that's going to work. Animated false, scroll position, I think it's none. Try that. That's all right. Selected rules, string, more reasons to wrap this. Let selected rules equal rules. And this is going to be variable as well, so this should actually be another parameter on our if statement. Whoop. Like that. And this is optional as well. So just keep moving these up. So now, okay, so we go into our user defaults and we look and see if there's a rules key. If there is, we try and instantiate some rules from it. If we can, then we look for the index of that set of rules in all the rules, and then we use that index to create index path, and then we select the row at that index path when we load the view. Hopefully this means that by the time we actually see the view, the index path that we want will be selected. Let's try running that. If I was making like a larger scale app, what I would probably do is create a custom table view subclass that allowed me to create a bunch of different rows and like just sort of define a row as an object and start doing all this configuration stuff there. But that did not select. Let's see if it's getting there. So it is. So either it's maybe we're selecting it too early. I wonder. If I'm calling super, it's a pretty fair cop that I'm going to be calling, you know what, whatever. You do your thing, Xcode. Let's try it in here. Okay, that's what we wanted. So we were just setting it a little too early here, and it was clearing the selection. Oh, right, because it clears selection on view will appear. Got it. That's there's like a standard setting for that. So great. But we can see that if we switch it to 3rd edition and say done, and then open settings again, it still opens up on 5th edition because that is what we have stored in our user defaults. So now we have to save to our user defaults when we want to change that. So we want our table view delegate, which I don't think that we have implemented yet. So we should give you guys some more music. How's everyone doing out there? Y'all doing okay? Anyone who happens to be watching this at this time? Making some okay progress here. We're making one menu and making stuff do things, but you know, that can take some time. Do. Hey, XHRS. It's yeah, I think we're making decent progress. This is going fine. All right, so and again, we'll make this look better in the future, but right now, so did select row at index path. And so what we're going to do here is sort of the reverse of what we did before. So we'll say let's override that. Because this is a UI table view controller, so all of these delegate and data source methods are already implemented by the superclass. If this was just a view controller that was implementing this delegate, we wouldn't have to override, we would be implementing it for the first time. Confusing things that you don't even notice the first time you learn to do stuff like this, and then you come back to them later, like, why am I overriding them in this place, or not overriding them in that place? That's why. So let rules equal rules all this is pretty safe. If we wanted to be super safe, we would probably guard on the count of, because we can, if we access an index in an array that is not available, we are gonna have a crash. So if we want to be super safe, we could guard on like the count of the array, and then that would protect us, or at least we would fail silently. But that's fine. Hey, Rock Pusher. So we are going to, yeah, so we'll get the rules at that index, and then we will say user defaults dot standard sets value for key, and we'll set it to rules.raw value for key rules dot key. I think that's it. So yeah, I think that's it, and we should that should store that for us. All right, so step one, we see if this actually changes the default selection of the table. And if it does, it does. Okay, so that seems to be working. So let's see now if the character. Haha! We have 3rd edition text. Perfect. Alright, so we have successfully implemented the edition changing. We have rules from multiple editions of Dungeons & Dragons. What? Great. All right. Good progress. Good, good, good. Yeah. Yeah, I want to draw as many new cards as you're going to give me. Super awesome app that does super awesome things. Woohoo. Every additional card I draw brings me one card closer to death. There we go. Draw no more cards. We are imprisoned forever. Drew a lot of cards that time, though. 8 cards. All right. Then we can set it to 5th edition. Say done. Go. And then we're in the second person again, so great. Great. Good progress. Like halfway through our stream for the day, and we have done some good things. Add well, sort of working settings. I mean, they're not really settings so much as like, well, I guess it is working settings. It's like one setting. One setting works. Yes. We're going to need to... Oh, that's why we're not using table selection at work. I figured it out, because we have to select multiple things in multiple sections. Ha ha. Amazing. All right. Well, providing we're just using it right now for this, we'll just use selection for it, and then we'll look at just doing configuration, which shouldn't be much more difficult. In fact, it's less difficult. That makes sense. Okay. So, table view, cell, add... Add convenience accessor for table view. Reuse ID. Wait, where did that end up? It is in the utilities group. Okay. Okay, that's fine. We added a lot of stuff here. So this one gets staged. This one gets staged. That gets staged. This can get staged. That can get staged. Okay, I think that's it, right? That's right. And then... Ones here. Rename rules as header. Boolean. Add header and description to rules. We are accruing some technical debt we are going to have to pay down at some point in the near future, but... He says never planning to pay down his tech debt. Let's add the cell next. And we don't want this one, but we want all the rest of them. And not that one. Not that one. And then add settings view controller. This is like one of those things where I like to yeah, unfortunately, Rock Pusher, I am the other chump. I will always be the other chump. No one else will work on this app, so it's all my tech debt. So let's add add or show settings from setup view. Ba-ba! Great. I like to make sure that everything I like to sort of like build everything and make sure it works and then like go back and commit it chunk by chunk, which works really well on small scale stuff like this and really poorly when you're doing like really intricate systems that are spread out all over the place in your app. You can create some problems for yourself there. This is generally fine though. Okay, let's look at I'm thinking about whether or not I want to like wrap user defaults in some sort of class, or because we're only really using it to store rules right now, whether I just want to stick a bunch of it as like static accessors in the rules class or the rules model. That might be the easiest thing to do, because like, yeah. Because I feel like just to get and set the active rules, it might make sense to just do it that way. Or like, just think of how like, I mean that works. I could just make a getter and setter for the rules class for an active property. Yeah, let's do that. Downsides to doing it like this. Makes it less flexible if I want to add other user defaults later. That's not exactly a big concern. Whatever. Okay. Why am I doing this like this? Why is that? Yeah, like that. we never want to set the rules to nil. So if we set the rules to a new value, we want to do what we're doing in here. Okay, and then get is what we do values. Values. Here we're just gonna say, where's our app delegate? Okay. So we'll say get let string equal user defaults dot standard dot value for key as string, let, and then return rules with a raw value of string. And this is not going to work because that requires a string. So this has to be guard let string equal blah 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 blah, else return nil. And then if we do have a string, then we return the rules that are created from that string. That is probably better. It obfuscates the fact that we are using user defaults, which is maybe not so good, but maybe that's okay. And so then in our app delegate, we say we can replace some of this. Rules. Rule number 1, Jeremy can't type. If rules.active equals nil. Oh yeah, we should synchronize our user default after setting them. That's probably good to do. App delegate, right. So if rules.active equals nil, great. That drastically simplifies that logic, which I appreciate. Let's go find places that we use user defaults. I don't like the fact that I'm like returning no text here without any explanation, but active. Do. And then say rules. Active. Okay. Let's try that. Let's see if we broke it. We did. Wah, wah, wah. Syntax problems. Try building again. Ba 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 ba. Checking. This seems to be working, but I want to make sure that it's sticking to 3rd edition here. Yeah, it is. Okay, good. So it preserves through launches, which is what we want. Fantastic. Good. That's so much better. Wait a minute, what do we call this? Not capitalized. probably safe. Hopefully that won't cause any strange conflicts for me. And then refactor rules. Rule number 1, Jer can't type. Da, 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 da. See if this causes any conflicts. It shouldn't, but there was like some white space inconsistency. So, of course there is a conflict. Do I want to bother resolving it? Do. That doesn't look right. Wait, what? Alright, there's some weird stuff happening here. I'm not going to worry about trying to rebase it to make it all pretty. The way that Git sometimes chooses to apply patches is very strange sometimes. It'll be like, okay, well I need one of these, but I'm not going to use that one, I'm going to use a different one from over here, and even if you try and be really careful about how you stage lines, sometimes it does not work out correctly. I'd really like to squash that back in, but I don't care enough right now. Okay, so we have selectable rules. That is good. I guess what is the next thing that we want to work on here? Do we still actually have our Sublime text document where we were talking about rule settings? We're not going to do card backs. Oh, right. Okay, so we need to add the header label to the card view. And I should also add localizations for this stuff. I'm just gonna go add ns localized string. This is like covering my butt for later. Not what was intended. Basically, this is a macro that will go find localized versions of these strings if I need them, if we are actually dealing with a localized app, like an app in another locale. For the cards, we're going to have to do something a little bit more complicated because we're already using localized files to find stuff, but we will figure that out later. That's like a really specific instance where I'm okay with leaving it. Anyone see any other strings? I wonder if there's a default. I doubt there is. No, there's not. It's like, how many times can I mess up this one macro? Might have to come back and fix this. I don't know if this is the right way to do it with formats, so... Ultimately, we probably need some sort of strings dict for this. Not totally sure. We'll get there. Basically, we in a situation where we're doing something like that, we might need to to refer to a dictionary that would like put the number in different places for different languages and affect pluralization. Because like if we're making a D&D app, it like probably at least makes sense to localize it into German, but this is sort of just future-proofing while we're at this stage, just in case we should like to localize things in the future. Okay, so let's just take stock of some stuff that I've been thinking of. So first of all, so OD&D did introduce the Deck of Many Things in the Greyhawk expansion, or Greyhawk set book. So that was the first appearance of it, and there was an original D&D implementation somewhere. Whether or not someone has ported that in a retro clone, I'm sure someone has. So we need to find a retro clone for OD&D that we can pull this out of. There's a different system that I think is the go-to for 2nd edition AD&D. It's like Gold and Glory, I think. I don't remember. I should have written it down. Something like that. 3.5 is good. 5th edition is good. 4th edition we're not sure of. And then on here I wanted to write investigate translations. So like the SRDs, I'm not sure if they're translated. That's something I can very easily find out. Let's just take a look at this for a second. Oh. Like I would assume that if there was a translation, that's like unfortunate. So they're only, it looks like the system reference documents are only really in English, which is like really too bad because like it'd be nice to just have a bunch of text to dump in different languages. Okay, that's fine. we will go back to the basics of what we were trying to do. So let's go back to, right, our card view. We were going to add... Well, let's make sure that we didn't break anything first. Step 1, make sure we didn't break anything. We will go from there. Step 2, go back and add the header label to the cards. Okay, this looks like it's fine. Yeah. Great. Okay, I actually need to take a quick bathroom break, so I will be right back. Just going to go back to the loading screen. I'll return in a second. Okay, we're back. Thank you for that. Apologies. I have more water now. That is good. So, back to what we were talking about. So yeah, we need to add the header label to the cards, and then we're going to start making this kind of transition a little better. Because what I want to happen is when you tap the card actually sort of expands into this view, and then when you escape, instead of going down, it goes and collapses into what that is. So we're going to be doing the transition stuff again, but it's going to be a little bit more complicated. we're now like basically feature complete for my initial like view of what the app would do, like what the app is capable of doing. I guess we're still not showing the headers of the rules, and we don't have all the rules systems implemented that I wanted to, and definitely the animations are not as nice as I would like, and everything needs to be styled and designed in the first place, but we're doing pretty well. Great. So where do we go from here? Guard view header. Thank you, Rockpusher, for using my awesome loading duck. I appreciate that that emote. It makes me happy. I think I may change my like Twitter icon and stuff to that. I don't know. The three ducks are with on the really bold coloring is like okay, but the loading duck is so much more subtle. I don't know. I think I need to revise my branding a little bit. Let's add our header label. Whoa, that is a lot of constraints. So one of the reasons that I've been using stack views a lot recently is to try and cut down on this constraint madness, because it's like it's fine when you're looking at it, but then you like go back and look at it and you're like, ooh, it's so gross. Appreciate that, Rockpusher. I mean, like, yeah, it's obviously loading too, which good waiting animation or icon, emote. Good waiting emote. Okay, so the header label is going to be that's going to stick for that, but the top anchor of this is now going to be to the header label. Leading, trailing, and this one doesn't need a bottom one? That sounds right. Yeah. I think that's okay. Then we actually need to configure what's in it. That's not what I want. I want strings. Strings. Oh no, I opened images and now everything is breaking. Strings. Haha! Cards? Oh, I opened a storyboard. Right, there's a launch storyboard. That exists. So this is going to be heading. I guess we need to add a thing for the heading. I'm in rules again. I want to be in card. So header text. And the header text, yeah, actually this is going to be an optional string, so we don't know if we're going to get back a header. And we'll say it's fine. So guard rules.active has rules text header else syntax null. And then we'll say yeah, I didn't think that would work. Okay. We need this anyway. So we'll get the rules, or get the active rules, and then if it doesn't have a rules text header, we return nil. Otherwise, we return same as this. Just replace that with heading. Okay, I think that should work. So then for our card view controller, when we set up the card, that's our transitioning stuff. I want this to be consistent, so header label, also brevity. Also realized that I forgot to add the header to the view, which could be a problem. Okay, let's try now. Final Fantasy IV, the gift that keeps on giving. I've played Final Fantasy IV many times. On the SNES, obviously originally on the DS, on the Game Boy Advance, actually before the DS. I started playing it on mobile at some point. I never played the After Years though. Should probably have like a display that says like what edition we're doing. Okay. That looks like we do have our header text. Yeah. Doesn't look like a header because it does not look like a header because it is not offset in any way. We determined that this was like 16 or something. Standard. Dot. Like that. Oh, what are they? Try that. See if that offsets it enough to be obvious. You know, what I actually started playing on my phone last night was the Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition, which is kind of cool. It's like, it's Final Fantasy 15, but it's on my phone. And I never played actual Final Fantasy 15, so I couldn't tell you like how close it is to it, but you know, it's kind of cool. That's a mistake. Let's split some hairs and get this. And let's go look at Don John. So yeah, I played some Final Fantasy 15 on my phone, and that was kind of cool. Controls well. It's kind of fun. Appreciate that. That's not bad at all. Also, just the smaller text size should be better in general for when we end up with cards that have like way too much text. It's amazing what like a tiny bit of styling will actually do. Yeah, it is basically, as far as I can tell, the game just converted into everything everything looking like super deformed old school, or not old school, but like sort of like the like DS and later mobile adaptations of Final Fantasy 3 and 4, which is cool. I like those. Mm. Mm. Add the header text there. Okay, what are we looking at for time? 45 minutes? Okay, we can try... Let's try to get this business looking more like what we want it to look like. So if we want to do that, let's go look at our draw view controller and see what's going on in our transition again. So present should trigger effect. Should trigger effect is a Boolean. Right, and we like pass the trigger effect into the card view controller and then choose whether to trigger it there. But so we're in a spot now where we're gonna want different presentation animations based on whether we are presenting from the control, or like from the carousel, or from nowhere. So what I think I want to do So on its initialization, we set the transitioning delegate to self. We set should trigger effect there. And then the transitioning delegate returns the animation controller. That's fine. So let's do the dismissal animation first because it will always be the same. So like if we present from drawing, we're going to have a different animation than if we presented from the carousel. But in both cases, when we dismiss the card, it'll go back to the carousel. So let's do that one first. Okay, so this is our dismiss animation right now. And at the moment it's basically just performing a transform that moves it off. But what we actually want to do is perform a transform that transform that collapses it down to the actual frame of the cell. So let's do this. So first of all, we are going to need to use view controllers as opposed to views here. So actually, do we need that view controller, or do we just need the other one? We need the coordinates of, or at least the size of the cells. So, but that's all we really need. So let's actually remove that. Put that back to how it was. And what we actually want is the other one. We want the draw view controller. Oh, interesting. XHRS, that's odd that they've got different rooms. I know that Twitch has also just introduced rooms. I haven't quite figured out like whether that would be useful. It seems like they want to have like Slack basically in Twitch, which could be kind of cool. I do think it would be nice if the chat was like persisted more. I mean, yeah. Anyway, figure that out later. So we have the draw view controller, and I'm gonna say let's size equals draw view controller size draw view controller collection view. To as draw view. Okay, so collection view, draw view, dot, collection view, layout. It's called collection view layout. Size for item and index path dot 0. Probably try and do that every single time. Do this for now. I mean, presumably all the sizes of all the cells are the same. We know that they're the same, but okay, so, and then let scale equals size dot height divided by card view dot container view dot frame dot size dot height. You want it to scale down. So, like the is Automod like? Sorry, did not realize Automod was being overzealous because people were talking about Discord. That's hilarious. Okay, so we get the height, or we get the scale that way. Wait, no, that's not what we want. We want it to, because it's starting with 0. Just make sure that it's like set correctly. And so we're gonna need to do a double, but we'll do that in a second. So let's just change the scale right now. Make sure that we've got this right. So what I expect to happen is that now instead of moving off the screen, when we dismiss the card, it should shrink. And if it does that, then we will know that we have done the correct thing. So that did what we expected, and then we hope that this shrinks. Lol, it did not shrink. It just broke the transition entirely. How did that happen? I want to make sure that I didn't like unwittingly change something. Okay, so maybe one of these is failing. Okay, that's good. Good. Okay. So this is failing. No, this is failing. Why? Aha, I thought so. We're on to Final Fantasy V. How long have we been listening to Final Fantasy V? Also, hey, Moblin. Okay, we'll leave it optional. Because I don't want to change the syntax right now. Hmm. So the to view is set and the from view is set, but the from view is listed as a keyboard animation style. The from view controller is set as another transition context. That's weird. That's very strange. This is probably just weirdness, but hmm. This is much more nicer, more nicely laid out than my code. just gonna comment this up for a second. I want to see if this other call works. So like if we get in here and stop, we know that we are doing something right. Okay, we stopped, so that's good. So we're seeing the draw view controller. I just want to, one more time, just make sure that I'm not doing something silly. Draw view. View. Or key 2. As draw view. I mean, the good news is if this works, even if this doesn't work, then we can get this from this. So it's not that big a deal, but it's weird that this would not work. Yeah, it doesn't work. Weird. I mean, that's fine. And now we're inside. Okay. That's very strange. I don't know why that was not working. We have a workaround, so that's okay. But still very bizarre. Okay, so back to where we were. We are hoping that what we're going to see is this should shrink instead of moving off the bottom. Good. Okay, that's exactly what we wanted to happen. Okay, so now we need to position it so that it is in the correct spot. And that is going to be interesting. So... That's not what I want. That'll give me its frame in the collection view. I want its frame in the view. That's what I want. Okay, so that's our scaling. Let's... equals draw view, selection view, layout attributes, index path, and we'll just use index path 0, 0 again, though we're not going to be able to do that forever. And then I always forget the thing I always forget about this method is the way that the direction that it works in. Oh, that's even better, actually. Convert point. Target cell frame dot center to draw view. Interesting. Actually, use DuckDuckGo as my default default search engine. If you're not watching the chat, that there was a mention that DuckDuckGo should be my default or should sponsor my stream. I like my private searches. Or because if you watch the stream enough, you will note that I am suspicious of all people who gather information to advertise to me. So, yes. Right. But it does have a center. Which it might not have. That's okay. So... I'm gonna figure out the logic behind this. See if this crashes. And if it doesn't, then we are in business. Because let's center equal container view, sorry, card view, center. So now so we want to add a scale and a translation. I thought that I could initialize a transform. From two other transforms? Okay, maybe that'll work. And then we want so the difference is going to be um, dot x getting there very slowly, but we're at the time of night where I'm starting to get tired, so mistakes are going to get made. Um, so here, this is where we want to go. So x equals center dot x minus target point dot x, y equals center dot y minus target point dot y. And now we will get to see if so this could crash. If there's no center attribute for this cell, then this will just straight crash. So we need to figure out a solution for that. But at least we'll know that it crashed. Interesting. Okay. Okay, so we're getting the distance. I'm going the wrong way, I think. Because we want a negative translation. I also need to figure out why my dimming view is not animating. Seemingly not animating. Okay, well, that's getting there. It's not quite lined up, interestingly enough. And the dimming view is definitely not fading out. It is just straight clicking to alpha 0 when the animation is finished. Which is also strange. Still not animating. All right. Well, things to work on for next time. So, yeah, we've still got some work to do, but we are definitely getting there. Um, need to figure some of this stuff out. But for the moment, yeah, we're I think gonna have to call it a night because it is past that time, and I'm tired, and Tally's tired, and our daughter's thankfully already asleep. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. But yeah, let's call it an evening, and we will come back to this next time and do more complicated stuff. This stuff we knew was going to be complicated because it just is. That's the way that it works. But it's also why we're doing this project. If we can get these transition animations working flawlessly and looking super nice, that will make the app look super sick, and it's the main thing that I kind of wanted to play around with this app. So I'm okay with it taking like a little bit of time, like a significant chunk of our time, because yeah, the payoff's going to be great, and the experience of doing it is going to be very helpful. So we'll go from there. Thanks so much for joining me today. This has been good and productive. I know it feels like these last little whiles we've been grinding away at edges and not actually making as huge accomplishments, but I think we're getting there. So thanks for joining me, and have a good night, and see you next Friday, if not sooner for maybe a bonus stream, but probably next Friday. Have a good night, folks.